I grew up in an evangelical household, an evangelical Christian household. I grew up hearing stories about the nobility of service. I was the president of the Young Republicans. I used to carry a copy of the Constitution around with me. I received a 4-year ROTC scholarship and an appointment to West Point. 1997, the summer of 97, I go to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, boot camp. And we go out to the bayonet assault course. And the drill sergeant would rally us all up and he would say, "What's the spirit of the bayonet?" And we'd say, "Kill, kill, kill without mercy, Sergeant." And he'd say, "What makes the green grass grow?" And we'd say, "Blood, blood, bright red blood, Sergeant." And for a kid who grew up in evangelical Christianity, as much as we might be patriotic, there's something that doesn't quite sit right. I was at Abu Ghraib for about 6 months total of interrogation time. When I wasn't at the interrogation center, when I was on my free time, I spent a lot of time in the chapel praying. I was interrogating schoolboys, young fathers, imams, average people taken off the streets and put into my interrogation booth. Finally, 5 months into my time at Abu Ghraib, I had an interrogation with a man who was a self-proclaimed jihadist. He challenged me, wondering if I had the same kind of spiritual centeredness to take that kind of fate, that I wasn't fulfilling the call to turn the other cheek, to love one's enemies. I took a little bit offense to this comment, but something had definitely occurred within me. When posed with that kind of challenge, I had nothing I could say to him. I absolutely agreed with him. My position as a U.S. Army interrogator contradicted my calling simply as a Christian, and it hindered my ability to do things like love my enemies. I wanted to ask him about his willingness to kill me. I wanted to ask him about the peace that he found in his religion, and if there could possibly be a way to get outside of the cycle of vengeance, that he and I could share a path. I said, "Why did you come here to kill?" And he flatly looked back at me and he said, "Why did you come here to kill?" I said, I didn't come here to kill. I came here to do my job and to defend the Iraqi people." He said, if you're kind of a strange man. If the military, if the U.S. didn't want people to be killed, they would have sent someone else, not soldiers. Soldiers are sent when people need to be killed. I have a duty to my country, and I'm fulfilling that duty. You said earlier that you're a Christian, but you don't follow the teachings of Christ, to love your enemies, to pray for those who persecute you, to turn the other cheek. This is a 22-year-old kid from Saudi Arabia who had never fired a gun in his life. At the time, I was a 24-year-old kid from Iowa. I'd never had to fire a weapon in combat. He and I were both idealistic kids, devoted to our people, devoted to our religions, and willing to kill and to sacrifice. And yet he was the person who told me to follow the teachings of Jesus. He was the one who told me I had to follow the teachings of the Sermon on the Mount. And I finally said, I think actually you're right. In the regulation governing conscientious objection, there's an element that they call the crystallization of conscience. And every CO applicant has to state what that was for them. And the interrogation with that jihadist was my crystallization of conscience. I realized for me to follow Christ involves taking seriously the charge for peacemaking. In the beginning of February 2005, I formally submitted my application to be considered a conscientious objector. My application was approved, and by the 30th of May, I was out of the Army. Because wouldn't it be great if 10 years from now, I'm not a soldier and you're not in prison, and we took a separate path together, both you and I. you live in a system that tells you you're justified to kill me. I live in a system that tells me I'm justified to kill you. What if we were both to put down those weapons and to find a different path? And I realized that what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk to him about the cycle of vengeance. And I wanted to talk to him about religion and what in the world how it was that a brown-eyed, brown-headed Saudi Arabian kid was sitting next to a blonde-headed, blue-eyed Christian kid from Iowa. I'm a 24-year-old kid looking for answers, and I don't care to exploit him of his information. I want to talk to him man to man. I want to talk to him about the things that matter to him and to me. I was submitting myself to a system that said, what's important is not who you are, but what you do. You need to do these things. But my identity as a Christian said that my value comes in my identification with Christ. I was fulfilling a duty that gave me a different identity. And so I ended up applying for conscientious objection. When we came back to the States, I officially submitted my application, and I was discharged about 3 months later.
My decision to leave the military was not about me. It was about obedience to a higher authority.
For the last year and a half, I have been living at home with a father who was diagnosed with brain cancer. And I was the one who had to be with him for showers, for bathroom. I shaved him. We became very physically intimate over the last year of his life. The primacy that ethics must play, whether you're talking about war or whether you're talking about taking care of the terminally ill. We must be profoundly concerned about the decisions that each of us make in times of great inconvenience. Whether that inconvenience is putting on hold something in your personal life in order to care for someone else, or if that means dealing with the ill repute that you might get in your unit. Individuals who are aware that an unjust war is taking place, if they participate in the war and do not seek to extricate themselves from the situation, they should not even be allowed absolution in confession. That's the kind of heightened language that one doctor of the church uses to describe the primacy of conscience. What is conscience? What does it even mean to have a conscience? There's no such thing as a private conscience. Conscience is inherently social. It is inherently political. You cannot have a personal feeling about a state of affairs and keep it to yourself and call it conscience. It's not so much what you do, but the mentality with which you do it. What I discovered is that the system that I found myself within far exceeded my capabilities as a single individual to make that sort of massive change from within necessary in order to conduct myself in a way that I would not want to then go back to Georgia like my friends did and hang themselves in their barracks room. The non-abstract realities that my friends and I encountered, we take that home with us in our bodies. And categories like soldier, like politician, like minister, like chaplain, these are all abstractions. There is no such thing as a president. There is Barack Obama. There is no such thing as a soldier. There is Joshua Casteel. And how I react when my father gets ill is going to have a relationship to how I act when I find myself in a situation of mortal danger. At the heart of all of this is a need to realize that what we believe on the inside can never be removed from what we do on the outside. There is no private conscience. What does that then mean for legislation? What does that then mean for what we teach kids in schools? For what we teach kids in churches, in mosques, in synagogues, in temples? Because one day they will be in a situation where it will be inconvenient, where people will think badly of them, where their career will have to be on hold, and they'll have to say, I have to make a choice. And I'm going to have to be responsible for that choice, and I'm going to have to be able to live with that choice. As a U.S. Army interrogator myself, and a friend of both those who have been tortured and those who have tortured, I ask you now, Senator McCain, to listen to the better angels of your own nature, which once fueled you in a fight of humanity and dignity. All right, welcome back. This is the second session of Racism and War, the Dehumanization of the Enemy. My name is Joshua Casteel, and I'll be chairing this panel.
I was diagnosed in early November with stage 4 cancer of the lung, which I most likely acquired from the burn pits at Abu Ghraib prison. And one of the things that I have come to feel about that diagnosis and that cause is even a certain sense of relief that I get to share in the sufferings of the Iraqis. Americans are gaining awareness of the impact of burn pits on soldiers, but less of an awareness of the sort of impact they are going to have on Iraqis for decades. There have just been so many people that have come to my aid and assistance, and without that support, we wouldn't have been able to do this. When you're actually in a place of vulnerability, and you're actually living because of the generosity of others, it changes you. Witnessing the simple generosity of people, and how much people really want to do good and are searching for ways to sacrifice on behalf of others. It's made it, in the same way that the nutrition has created an environment where cancer can't survive, the generosity of others is creating an environment where cynicism can't survive. And I've really been reborn in a lot of ways, and honestly, I prefer the person who you're talking to right now much more than the person that I was prior to being diagnosed with cancer. And if that's not a way of saying thank you, I don't know really what is, because it's been the love that I've been witness to and the recipient of that has achieved this. So, thank you.